Greetings, my delightfully dreadful super horror family. It's your host, Papa Bones, here with some spine-tingling news that's sure to rattle your bones with excitement. This year, we're weaving a web of creepy fairy tales for our annual calendar. Each month shows a new story to send shivers down your spine. Now gather round, my ghoulish gang. Remember last year? Well, Papa Bones used a fancy website for our calendars then. And guess what happened? Those tried to raise their prices on us! I can't believe they would stoop so low as to this land. I didn't know what to do, but I know I didn't want to charge more, so I did the only thing I could. I looked at all of the options the website gave for paperweight and gloss and decided I would buy the same paper and a spiral binder and do it myself. It took a few tries, but it works now, even with us doing it all in-house this year. Now what does that mean for you, my eerie entourage? It means no price hikes, and I don't need to wait for calendars to get to me to send them out to you guys. You'll get the same hair-raising, bone-chilling calendars at the same price as last year. No one can stop the super horror family! So let's leave those price hikers in the dust. You can support Super Horror Show by buying a calendar. The listing is on eBay. Link in the description and in the pinned comments. You're probably going to want to know what day it is next year. So really, it's a win-win. And now, on to the show! The halls of Winterhaven Middle School were buzzing. Kids everywhere. Teachers too. All getting ready for the big night. It was the night of the Christmas tree lighting ceremony. The school was decorated with all the normal Christmas stuff. Lights, paper snowflakes, everything in attendance. Charles had just turned 13. He was trying to act cool about it all. But really, he was just as pumped as the kindergartners were, only Charles had a different reason. He'd been waiting for tonight, the night of the Christmas tree lighting, so he could talk to the whispering Christmas tree. It was the one in the center of town that everyone made a big deal about. It was supposed to know things. Lots of couples in town claimed they asked the tree about their future husbands and wives, and the tree would whisper them answers. Charles, being 13, was pretty much a man now, and he had one big question on his mind. Does Ella like me? Ella was different this year. She wasn't the little girl with pigtails anymore. She had a way of doing things now that made Charles notice that she was kind of amazing. And tonight, he'd finally find out if she thought the same about him. At least, that's what he hoped the whispering tree would tell him. As the school day wrapped up and the sky outside turned a deep shade of winter blue, Charles felt a mix of nerves and excitement. He wanted to talk to Ella, maybe ask her if she'd be at the Christmas tree lighting ceremony too. But no, better not. That would be dumb. No one missed the Christmas tree lighting. Charles rushed home, his backpack feeling heavier than usual. He dropped it by the door and made a beeline for the kitchen, where the smell of something sweet was in the air. His mom was there, moving some fresh baked cookies from the baking pan to a plate. "You're home early," she noted, giving him that look that said she knew something was up. "Yeah, I'm just excited for tonight," Charles admitted, grabbing a cookie from the plate. "Mom, do you think the whispering tree is real? Like, does it really work?" His mom paused, a smile playing on the corners of her mouth. "Oh, I've heard all of the stories. Some say it's just kids playing tricks on each other," whispering back answers. Charles frowned. That wasn't the kind of magic he was hoping for. Actually, some kid hearing his thoughts was terrifying. Seeing his disappointment, his mom changed directions. "But there are so many stories." She wiped her hands on her apron and sat down at the kitchen table, gesturing for Charles to join her. "Your dad, when he was about your age, went up to that tree and asked if I liked him. And you know what? He heard a yes so clear, he ran straight to me with a cup of hot chocolate in his hand and asked me to take a walk with him. That's real magic," Charles whispered.
the cookie in his hand forgotten. His mom nodded, her eyes twinkling. That's right, and we've been inseparable ever since. Charles' mind whirled with possibilities. What if the tree worked for him too? What if tonight, under the twinkling lights and the hushed whispers of winter, the tree confirmed that Ella liked him? Maybe then he could find the courage to ask her out, just like his dad did all those years ago. The rest of the afternoon blurred into a haze of daydreams. Ella, the tree, the ceremony, it all melded into one big hopeful fantasy. Charles practically scrubbed his skin off in the shower, preparing himself for the tree to say yes to him. As evening crept closer, Charles knew it was almost time. His dad gave a shout. "It's time to go! Get to the car, or stay home and be visited by the Grinch." Charles ran straight to the car and buckled up. "Are you okay? You're breathing really heavy," his dad asked, looking at Charles in the rearview mirror. "He's fine, Jim. Did you check him? He might be sick." "He's fine." "You look great, sweetie." My mom's voice was soothing. She touched my dad's arm and smiled at him, and it was like he understood her. He turned on the Christmas music radio, and we were off. The tree lighting ceremony in Winterhaven that year was amazing. Not even the chill in the air could dampen the festive spirits. The tree itself, a magnificent spruce with a rainbow of lights and ornaments, stood in the heart of town. Charles made sure to stay as close to Ella as he could. Together, they listened to the church choir sing, a pleasing backdrop to their intermittent conversations. "You know," Ella said, "I remember watching a beagle and a Santa hat trot by as a little kid, and since then I've wanted to walk my dog in the Christmas parade. He'd look adorable in a little elf sweater." Charles chuckled, trying to look too cool for what was considered a childish event. "Really? I mean, it's cute, but isn't it a bit silly?" Ella gave him a playful nudge. "It's Christmas. Silly's part of the fun. I'm gonna do it this year." "I'll make sure to look for you during the parade." His response made Ella's expression change. Charles didn't want Ella to be sad, but also didn't want to risk looking like a little kid in front of her. "Goodness, did you see Mr. Haynes here earlier?" "No." "He must have left quickly. Doesn't he know it's Christmas season? It's like he doesn't even care. He could suspend the Monday math test for December. It wouldn't hurt anything." "Oh man, don't say those words to me, Charles. I'm gonna be stuck studying all weekend. Sometimes I feel like the equations are written in a different language." "Well, if you ever need help, I'm pretty good with numbers. I'd be happy to come by. When you need it, of course." Ella's eyes lit up. "Would you? That'd be amazing." Charles nodded, smiling uncontrollably. The night was winding down when Ella glanced around, noting the dispersing crowd. "Looks like it's about time to head home," she sighed, a hint of reluctance in her voice. Charles' mom and dad found him and mentioned leaving for pizza, but Charles couldn't leave yet. The tree, with its whispers of fate and future loves, was waiting for him, and he hadn't had a moment alone with it. His mom, sensing his unrest, suggested they get the pizza and return for him later. His dad's practical nature made it hard for him to circle back, but as always, he couldn't deny his wife's gentle persuasion. "Okay, Charlie. Figure we'll be back in an hour, bud," his dad called out as they left. Alone, Charles lingered near the tree, his heart pounding. When the crowd thinned, he seized his moment, dashing behind the tree and squeezing into its hollow. Inside, the tree was a different world. Whispers of past secrets seemed to echo in the woody scent, and the lights from outside cast a mystical glow through the branches. Charles quietly asked his question, but silence was his only answer. Again and again he asked, becoming more and more desperate. "Please, please just tell me." Until finally, a response came. The voice was not what he imagined. It sounded like a child. Not a little kid, but a 13-year-old. "I want to help you, but I can't. I'm too weak." "What?" "Yeah. Hey, with the right stuff, I could make it so you date Ella, but I just don't have it right now. But maybe if you would help me? Anything you need, I'll get it right now. No, Charles, it can't happen here tonight. Not with everyone around. Charles, realizing the tree was correct, agreed to go back the next morning. Everyone enjoyed the town's Christmas tree, but during the day when the lights were off, people were more likely to simply walk by it. That night, Charles laid in his bed. The tree's eerie promise replaying in his mind. What did he agree to? What did the tree need? And most of all, what would tomorrow bring? The next morning, Charles left his house early. The whispering tree's leaves shimmered with a silvery tone as Charles approached it in the early morning sun. "You're back early," it murmured, its voice like the rustle of dry leaves. "I wanted to make sure I had enough time to do whatever was needed as early as possible." "That's great," the tree replied with a little more excitement. Charles' eyes were earnest and full of yearning. "Tell me what I have to do." The tree's branches gestured to the earth at its base. "Bring water, Charles. Water is life. Pour it here at the root of my tree, and say these words. Whispering tree, I now pour this life offering at your door. In this act I grant thee sway. Shape my destiny here this day." "And that'll do it? Ella will go out with me?" Charles asked, a tremble in his voice. The tree paused, the morning light casting dappled shadows across its bark. "The gift of water from you will allow my life energy to move through you, getting you a date with Ella." Charles memorized the words carefully and ran to the store to purchase a bottle of water. He was back at the tree in minutes. Clutching the bottle of water, Charles stood nervously before the whispering tree. The tree felt like it was watching him with 1,000 unseen eyes. He unscrewed the cap and whispered, "Whispering tree, I now pour this life offering at your door. In this act I grant thee sway. Shape my destiny here this day." As the water soaked into the earth, a sudden jolt ran through Charles. His vision blurred and then went black. When his senses cleared, he was staring out from the tree itself. His consciousness was somehow melded with the wood and the leaves. Panic set in as he tried to move limbs that no longer existed, to call out with the voice that had turned to the whisper of rustling leaves. But when he looked out to where he was just standing, he could still see himself. Only now he wore a sly grin, and his eyes gleamed with mischief. Charles, trapped inside this wooden prison, realized the gravity of his error. The ritual wasn't to win Ella's heart. It was the tree's cunning ploy to escape its wooden confines, and it had worked. "Thanks for the life, Charles," the spirit in Charles' body said before casually strolling towards the unsuspecting town, ready to begin a life that was never meant to be his. The true Charles was left behind to grapple with the shock, his spirit entwined with the whispering Christmas tree. The town was stirring to life as the spirit wearing Charles' body made its way through the familiar streets, reveling in the sensation of a human body, the warmth of the sun, the cool breeze, the very weight of being. It found Ella outside her house, adjusting a string of colorful lights that had gone out. Ella looked up and smiled, though her eyes held a trace of confusion. "You're early, Charles. When I mentioned you helping me in math, I didn't mean before breakfast." She let out a giggle. The spirit, with the confidence Charles never had, shrugged nonchalantly. I thought, why wait? Hey, do you want to go for a walk in the park?" "Okay." As they walked through the park, Ella chatted about the tree lighting and the winter parade, but the replies she got from who she thought was Charles were odd, disjointed. He had this cool guy persona. "Call me Chuck," he'd say, along with a bunch of other weird things. Ella began to get worried. "Chuck, did you accidentally take those drugs that make people think they know how to fight?" "Who, me? I'm better than ever," the imposter boasted, grinning wildly. "You know, we could kiss right now if you wanted." Maybe later. Right now, I should get back home. I need to study for math. Wanna help?" "Yeah, it's a little cold out here. Let's study math." and warm up. At Ella's house, she pulled out her math textbook, hopeful for help with an equation. Chuck was clueless. Charles had been a whiz with numbers since grade school, his explanations clear and patient. Chuck, however, couldn't make heads or tails of anything. Ella's brows furrowed, her suspicion growing. "This isn't funny, Charles. Chuck. If you don't want to help, just say so." The spirit, unable to do the math, was cornered. I'm just not very good at math today. I should get going, but maybe I could come by later? We could do something you want to do. Anything but math." Ella let out a giggle. Math is my favorite, but I guess we could do something else. And Chuck was off. That afternoon, Ella decided to go for another walk. Between last night and this morning, so many things had happened, and she was feeling a little lost. Her thoughts kept returning to the tree lighting ceremony, and her feet took her to the whispering tree, her steps slowing as she approached it. Its leaves rustled softly, as if inviting her to share her troubles. "Whispering tree," Ella began, her voice a mix of frustration and sadness. "I like Charles, but now, today, can you help me?" The real Charles, entangled within the fibers of the tree, felt a horrible pain. He wanted to scream, to tell her everything, but all that came out was the soft, eerie whisper of the leaves. All he had to do was be himself, and now he was forever trapped, imprisoned in the whispering tree. Ella sat, lost in thought. Charles' mind raced. Could he, as the whispering tree, influence Ella? Maybe tell her Charles was not meant to be with her. The thought broke his heart. He couldn't bear the thought of pushing her away, but Chuck's behavior was only going to hurt her more. He made his decision. "Ella," the tree whispered, the voice warmer than before. "Charles likes you. He's just trying to be cool. He needs your help to stop this act." Ella's eyes widened in astonishment. She was of course familiar with the legends, but the whispering tree had never spoken to her before. "How can I help him?" she asked, wanting to bring back the Charles she knew. "I could help you, but I need life energy. Water. Bring Chuck here and say these words. Whispering tree, I now pour this life's offering at your door. In this act I grant thee sway. Shape my destiny here this day. Then tell Charles that water bottle is for him. It has to be his water. Then pour the bottle out on the ground." Ella nodded, a determined spark in her eyes. "I'll do it tonight." As she left to find Chuck, Charles in the tree felt a surge of hope. His plan was risky, but it was the only chance he had to reclaim his life and to protect Ella from the entity that now wore his face. Later that day, as the sun began to descend, casting an amber glow over the town, Ella found Chuck leaning against the side of her house, a feigned casualness in his posture. "Ready to hang out?" he asked with that same sly, uncharacteristic grin that had unsettled her that morning. Ella nodded, a determined glint in her eye. "Let's visit the whispering tree," she suggested, trying to sound nonchalant. Chuck hesitated, his smile faltering. "The Christmas tree? Why there?" "Well, we were there last night and it was so much fun." "Yeah, but there were people there and more things to do." "Hey, you promised, remember? Anything but math." "Let's stop by the tree and then we can do something else." Ella's voice was steady, despite the pounding of her heart. Reluctantly, Chuck agreed, and they started their walk. As they drew nearer to the Christmas tree, Chuck slowed his steps. There was a subtle tension in his body language. Ella, with a feigned innocence, approached the whispering tree, its leaves whispering a comforting melody. Chuck lingered behind and pretended to tie his shoes, his eyes darting around nervously. Ella approached the tree with a warm smile. "I'm ready," she whispered. Then she quietly lowered her head and recited the words that Charles had given her. Chuck couldn't hear what she was saying, but looked incredibly nervous. "Hey, what are you doing over there? Who are you talking to?" Then she raised her head and turned to Chuck. She smiled softly, lifted the bottle of water, and said, "This water's for you. It's your water, Chuck. Water is..." But before she could finish, Chuck, realizing what was happening, dashed over to where she was, panic overtaking him. He grasped for the bottle, his movements frantic. Ella, shocked into stillness by this sudden aggression, could only watch as the bottle slipped from her grasp, spilling onto the thirsty ground. Inside the tree, Charles felt a warm breeze stir his essence. The water was so close. Freedom was within reach. He just needed the life-giving liquid to touch the roots. Chuck dropped to the ground in an attempt to greedily absorb whatever water he could, and for a moment, everything was still. As the last of the water soaked into the soil, the whispering tree's leaves stirred with a newfound energy. Inside the tree, Charles' spirit surged with life. The magical exchange was initiated by the spilled water. With a rush of wind and a flash of light so subtle it could be mistaken for a trick of the eye, the switch was made. Charles reclaimed his body, staggering to his feet with the unsteady gait of someone who's not used to walking. He looked at Ella, a goofy grin spreading across his face. You didn't see that," he said, trying to regain some composure. Ella, still trying to process the chaotic turn of events, managed a shaky laugh. "Chuck, you nearly scared me to death when you ran at me." Charles quickly brushed the dirt from his clothes, his movements exaggerated and comical. "I was really thirsty," he explained with a sheepish chuckle. "I didn't want you to throw my water away. And you know what? Let's not call me Chuck anymore. I thought it sounded cooler, but next time I try to change my name to sound cooler, I'll probably go with Rambo Charles Rambo III. Ella raised an eyebrow, a playful smile tugging at her lips. "What a great idea, Charles Rambo." "Can Charles Rambo III walk with you during the dog part of the Christmas parade?" he asked, a twinkle of his old self shining in his eyes. Ella pretended to ponder. "I thought that was silliness." Charles puffed up his chest in mock offense. "First of all, how dare you, Ella? Nothing Charles Rambo III does is silly." Their laughter mingled with the rustling leaves of the whispering tree. Ella's hand slipped into his, her warm touch pulling him back to the moment. "Let's go see a movie," she suggested, her voice full of the promise of normal, easy fun. Charles looked back at the whispering tree, half expecting to feel a shiver of fear or a surge of anger. But as he looked at it, he noticed its branches swaying gently, like they were waving goodbye, or even applauding. There were no bad feelings. It was just peaceful. As they walked away, the soft sound of the tree's leaves seemed to follow them. Charles couldn't help but think about the tree. It didn't seem so scary now. Maybe it never was. Isn't this exactly what he wished for? A real chance to be with Ella? Perhaps the tree, in its own mysterious way, knew what he needed all along.
And there you have it, my fiendish friends. Don't forget to snatch up your very own Super Horror Show calendar on eBay. Each page is a testament to our tenacity and your unwavering support, making them extra special, just like each and every one of you in the Super Horror family. Now, before I vanish into the shadows, let's take a moment to think about Charles. His mom said his dad spoke to the whispering tree. That's why I think Charles' dad hates him! He just left him there to be bullied by that tree? What was he thinking? Oh my god!